For over a decade, I shopped and worked at my local comic shop. One of the best parts about hanging out there was comparing notes on what I was reading with folks who shared my passion for comics. My comic shop is gone now, but we can still hold on to the magic of that in-store discussion. This is My Comic Shop Book Club. Welcome to My Comic Shop Book Club. I am your host, Anthony Desiato. This episode, our reading selection is All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, written by Frank Miller, drawn by Jim Lee. Joining me to discuss this series is Fat Moose Comics owner, Shawn Hendricks.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome, sir.
I can't keep that up. You know what? I was going to try and do the voice. I can't do the voice. It's not. It's just not worth it.
I admire the effort, and I admire the visual
I got
cue,
the shirt.
and the shirt, and the mask for our YouTube viewers. Unfortunately, it'll be lost on our audio listeners, but you can use your imagination. And I appreciate the attempt at the voice. I think, though, to sustain that over 60 plus minutes, I think might do some damage.
Yeah, it'd probably mess me up for life. Where's the trigger?
Oh my goodness! Would you like to?
I'm already bored. Hold on.
Would you like to unmask and reveal yourself for our audience?
This may actually be preferential, but okay, this is what my face looks like.
There he is, folks.
Look at all this hair.
So it's very appropriate. This is My Comic Shop Book Club, right? Born out of the great discussions that many of us have experienced at our local comic shops. You are the owner of Fat Moose Comics in Whippany, New Jersey. And
it is my gift and it is my curse.
Yes. And it's a comic shop, the comic shop that we need, but not the one that we deserve, or vice versa.
There you go.
Which one?
Is it the other? I could never keep that. That phrase never made any sense to me.
Well,
he's not the hero we need, but the one we deserve. Whatever.
Well, we won't pull at those threads too much, but
yeah,
we are here to discuss the infamous All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, not to be confused with Scott Snyder's All-Star Batman, which came out far more recently.
Right.
The series we're talking about, again, by Frank Miller and Jim Lee, they published 10 issues in between 2005 and 2008. I looked it up. So, yes, this, of course, was a series plagued by delays and notoriously remained and remains unfinished. So issue 10 ends not on a hard cliffhanger, but totally unresolved. And to this day, we never got a resolution to the story.
Now, did they not? I didn't get a chance. I literally, truth be told, I got the book. I read it when it was coming out monthly in quotes. But those issues are all in storage in my sister's basement in Branchburg, New Jersey. And so I didn't get a chance to get there. So I ordered it through my shop, and the trade paperback showed up on Saturday. I didn't get a chance to read it until like 6:30 tonight, and now it's a little after 8. So I sat and just binged the whole thing. It ends. It's not a terrible ending. I don't think it's unresolved in any way, but it does feel truncated. It does feel like there was probably going to be more. And I didn't have time to do the research because I literally finished just in time to pour a drink and hop on this Zoom meeting with you. Didn't they do like a one-shot follow-up a bit later? No, nothing? Was there nothing?
Oh, hang on a second. So the trade paperback you have, I think, does it just collect 1 through 9?
I believe so.
Okay. So
Hold on, I'll grab it. I got it literally right behind me. Give me a second.
Yeah. So while Shawn is looking for that, oh, wow, that was fast. All right. And he's back.
This is, here it is. I don't know. Hold on. Usually I put it on the back cover. This is,
I'm pretty sure.
So much crap in the front here before you.
So I'm pretty sure you just have 1 through 9. And that's why you said it's not that bad of an ending. Because I remember very well, of course, how issue number 9 ends. Issue 10, though. Yeah. Okay.
1 through 9.
So the Absolute Edition that they did, that one.
Oh, well, excuse me.
That one has issue 10. So you did most of your homework, but you didn't get to the 10th issue, but that's okay. It's okay. It's not your fault.
I'm so tired.
I know. Listen, I don't know how many people listening or watching are new to my stuff. I suspect and I hope that there are a lot of folks who have been with me on my my podcast journey with my comic shop history and digging for kryptonite. And, you've been a frequent guest on my other podcast. So I think for a lot of our audience, you're a welcome face and a welcome voice. And I know you're busy with the shop, and I appreciate you doing this. And I guess before we really dive in, let's toast.
Here we go. Happy holidays and all that.
Yes. Well, this will be out after that, but I hope everyone.
Well, it's what today's the 21st.
Cheers.
So. Cheers, everyone.
What are you drinking?
I will give you one guess, and you will be absolutely correct.
I know it's Wild Turkey. It's just a matter of, is it the 101 or is it the Long Branch? That's the only question.
101. No, that Long Branch is long gone.
Okay.
That didn't stand a chance.
Okay. Do you know what I have?
You have Maker's Mark.
It is Maker's Mark, yeah.
See, that's how good I am. I can just look at it and tell you what it is.
When I did my reread, I posted a photo on the Flat Squirrel Podcast Network Facebook group. And it was my iPad with issue number 1 pulled up. And it was the bottle of Maker's Mark and this glass. And I think that got more likes than almost anything else I've posted.
Well, and you went super classy black and white. You were very artsy about it.
Yes. Yeah, I did do that. And I had one of your customers actually pointed out my fancy glass. Octavia, I think, called out my fancy glass.
She's awesome. She's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to give a shout out, actually, Stonegate Wines and Spirits, a liquor store in Valhalla that is owned by a guy I met through my old comic shop. And he actually gifted me a set of these glasses.
It's quite nice.
I don't expect that drinking during the episodes will be a regular thing with this podcast series, except when you're on.
It will when I'm on. Yeah, you got that right, pal.
But somehow it felt appropriate for this reading selection, right?
For this goddamn Batman.
Do you think it should have just been called the goddamn Batman?
I think it's known basically as the goddamn Batman at this point. So,
all right. There's a lot I want to ask you. I want to get your take on everything, but I just want to lay out something real quick.
I took notes. Look.
Oh,
I took notes.
I appreciate that. I don't have any notes, so I really appreciate that.
Well, you're much more clever than me, and you probably have it in your head.
I don't know. We'll see. Once that Maker's Mark kicks in, who knows? But, I just wanted to talk for just a second about, kind of how I'm picking the reading selections for this book club podcast, because for the most part, my intention is for this to be a celebration of comics. Like, for the most part, the stuff that I'm going to be picking is stuff that I really enjoyed, right? I don't really have the interest or the desire to spend my energy like dumping on something for an hour.
Right.
That's just not what I want to.
There are plenty of YouTube channels that do that exact thing.
Exactly. Right. So I don't want to put that energy out there necessarily. I will, of course, whatever we're talking about, I will give my honest opinion, and even stuff, even if I enjoyed something as a whole, there's always stuff that, you didn't like, and I'll be honest about all that. This episode though, falls into a little different category, but there's a method to the madness, because one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, again, celebrate the stuff that I like, but another reason is I thought it would be interesting to kind of revisit certain stories, and this is a great example, where I did not enjoy it the first time around, and it's not something that I remember fondly all these years later, but I always wondered, coming back to it with a different perspective, is there something that can be enjoyed there? Is there a way that I could kind of approach this where I could find a way to enjoy it? And that was sort of the experiment and the challenge that I wanted to present to myself, and that's why we did this episode.
Well, what's your hot take real quick, like your elevator pitch on what this thing is?
My hot take, honestly, is that I definitely enjoyed it more than I did the first time around. I don't think that it's a misunderstood masterpiece. I do think it's misunderstood to an extent, and there are aspects of it that I enjoyed. I don't feel that it's the train wreck that I guess I felt it was initially. So my position on it changed. Again, I didn't completely swing the other way. That would be a lie. But I was able to find a way to at least enjoy aspects of it. So I think overall for me, it was a successful experiment. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here for an hour and try to convince you or anyone else that like, this is amazing, you have to read it. But again, I do think there is something to be enjoyed about this. And we'll talk about it. But what's your hot take?
It's a bit of a shit show, pardon the language. It feels like Frank Miller doing a parody of Frank Miller. Like he's like cranking the dial up to 11 Like, how Frank Miller can I be about this? There's a lot of weird misogyny. There's a lot of which is just, and like I said, I just finished it like 10 minutes before we started recording. It's the art's very nice. Jim Lee, a master of his craft. I've never thought he was a great costume designer when he redid all the new 52 costumes and everything looked almost exactly the same. Like all of these superheroes all go to the same tailor. Not a fan of his costume design, but as far as artwork and coloring and lettering, yeah, it's great. As far as actual story, holy crap. It's and again, having not read the final issue, the unintended final issue, it's as Batman could be, I suppose. If,
No, fair enough. Again, I'm assuming that people listening or watching this episode have read it or at least know enough about it. But the spine of the story is Batman drafting a just orphaned Dick Grayson into his war on crime.
Well, by drafting you mean kidnapping.
Yes.
And forcing. Like there's literally a panel where he literally physically throws him into the Batmobile.
Yeah. And keeps him there for like 4 issues. It's like a 4-issue long Batmobile ride.
See, that's one of my notes, actually. They're in that Batmobile for a long time.
I know where you're going. Go for it. I know what this is. Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No.
Tell me then.
No,
okay.
You go.
Okay. In the space of time that they're in this Batmobile, the circus that he goes to with Vicky Vale, who, by the way, the first reveal of Vicky Vale, she's in a bra and panties and high heels alone in her own place. So, I mean, that's how I usually rock it, when I'm home alone, bra, panties, and stilettos.
Yeah, very cheesecakey, her introduction.
Oh my
very,
God.
very. That would not, I don't think you would see that today.
No. But they go to the circus, which is ostensibly near Gotham. And Wayne Manor, hence the Batcave, is right outside of Gotham. But man, that car trip takes so long that Dick Grayson's picture ends up on a milk cart
in Metropolis.
In Metropolis. How long? How the hell did that happen? That's either the fastest turnaround for a missing child thing. How did he end up on it? So did you think that's what I was going to reference? Yeah.
That's 100%. I had the same thought.
Flabbergasted by that.
And I feel like this was commented on at the time. But yeah, I was reading it and, because there's a scene, we jump to Metropolis and Clark is pouring milk and he sees Dick Grayson on the carton. And it's like, but I think they're still in the Batmobile. It's like,
yeah, it's like the same night. Like, wow, that's the freshest milk I've ever seen. Like, this is.
Yeah. I want to.
That took me out of it a little bit, as did 100 other small things. But that one, I actually jotted that down as a note because what the hell, man.
I'm with you. There's a lot obviously about the story that I want to talk about. I do want to talk about the publishing side of this because I think it's interesting to kind of view this story in its context. But before we even get to that, one story related point that I think we have to bring up right at the beginning, a few minutes ago, we mentioned the goddamn Batman, right? Mm. And he refers to himself as that and is referred to as that numerous times throughout the story.
The goddamn Batman.
And in particular, there's a standout moment in the Batmobile where young Dick Grayson, whose parents were just murdered in front of him, who was kidnapped by the police, who Batman, quote unquote, rescued/kidnapped, and they're in the Batmobile and Dick Grayson asks who he is and Batman says like, I'm the goddamn Batman. He says a couple of other things before that really again, one in particular would not fly at all.
Are you dense? Are you retarded? What was the third? There's 3 of them. I think retarded was the big one that it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Kid still got his parents' brains on his shoes.
Yeah. Very poor taste. But in any event, the goddamn Batman line, I don't know. I was thinking about it, and it's from Batman's perspective, right? There have been stories about Batman in the paper, right? He's this, maybe urban myth, but there's stories about him. There's a bat signal in the sky. He shows up and approaches Dick Grayson dressed in a bat costume. He throws him in a car,
literally
shaped like a bat. So it's like, I don't know. Who do you think it is?
Yeah,
If you had to guess,
I'm going to chalk that up to trauma. You know. He did just witness his parents get killed in front of him. But the goddamn Batman, there's just something. Hold on. Somebody's calling me. Leave me alone. I'm podcasting. Okay. That I think is like the standout takeaway from this whole story. I think when talking about this book over the years with people, there are two things that seem to stand out. Everybody, the goddamn Batman, the what are you, dense, are you retarded? And then the second thing that most people seem to gravitate towards conversationally is Batman and Black Canary basically having sex in the rain on the dock. And,
We keep the masks on because it's hotter that way.
Wait, hold on. I can make it better. Yeah.
We keep the masks on. It's hotter that way.
Sean just put on a different Batman mask. He's really
different. Like, you think I have just the one?
He's really not messing around here. Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, and feel free to expand on that, because I was actually going to ask you again, as someone who has worked at a comic shop and now owns a comic shop, and I know you guys have a great community there. You hang out talking comics. I was curious. And you just answered it, but I was curious, like, what is the general, like, the tone of the conversation when this book comes up at the shop?
Most people view it as like an Elseworlds B movie, like a Robert Rodriguez, grindcore version of Batman, like intentionally over the top, sometimes so far over the top where, they could not release that book today. There would be YouTube series and protests and cancel culture and all. Like, there's no way DC would ever be like, let's put that out there,
And that's the thing. And, like I said, I wanted to kind of examine the publishing history of this, because I think it's interesting, and it makes All-Star Batman and Robin like an even more curious choice, right? So this was part of the All-Star line. Right, and this was the first book in the All-Star line. Ended up being only one of two. There was this and All-Star Superman, which, of course, is regarded as one of the greatest Superman stories ever. So
I've always wanted to reread. I read it monthly. It ran the full 12 issues, right?
Yep. That one finished. Yeah,
completed. Yeah, I remember enjoying it, and I think I even own the animated version, which I still haven't gotten around to watching. But I would love to sit down and reread that, because it's so highly regarded. At the time, reading it monthly, I read so many comic books in a given week that I remember enjoying it, but it didn't resonate with me, because I'd read that issue, issue 3 or 4, and I'd go read something else and something else and something else. I would imagine in a trade paperback format that it's much more enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. But I get what you're saying. But, for anyone who needs a refresher, the All-Star line was intended to be not quite DC's version of Ultimate, like what Marvel did with their Ultimate line.
Right.
But the sort of the idea behind it was top tier creators on their biggest characters, freed from the shackles of continuity, able to tell whatever stories they wanted, utilizing any toys from the character's history that they wanted to, right? To ultimately present the most like iconic version of the character. And I think with All-Star Superman, you get that, like, that's one of those books that I'm sure you've experienced this, right, at the store, where either a new customer or an existing customer who's kind of thinking about Superman, like, oh, what should I read? It's like, that's one of those books that you can give to someone and say, here you go.
Right.
Batman and Robin was something else. And that's why it's like that's
two
why I said
very, very different approaches.
That's the thing. That's why I say, like, it was kind of a curious choice, because I don't think in any way, like, really fits the bill of what the All-Star line was intended to be.
I think it was a matter of, we've got Frank Miller, we've got Jim Lee. They're both basically commanding a heavy paycheck. I guess we're just going to release whatever the hell they give us. I don't know,
Well, so, one other member of the creative team that I would like to mention here is the assistant editor, Brandon Montclair. Good friend of mine. So
Brandon V. Montclair?
Is it V?
No.
No. It's an L.
I do that to everybody because of Ken V. Mary.
Oh, V Ken.
Yeah,
V Ken
yeah.
will almost certainly be listening and or watching. So we shout out to Ken.
How's it going, pal? But no, okay, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, wait. But
I like to knock you off your game a bit,
I appreciate
that's what I do.
If not for the maker's mark, I would have caught it, but it's been a few minutes. So Brandon Montclair was one of the owners at Alternate Realities, my old comic shop. I worked under Brandon for a number of years. He went on to be an assistant editor at DC, working under Bob Schreck. And they worked on some Vertigo books and the Bat line and the All-Star line. And of course, Brandon now has gone on to have a very nice career as a comic book writer. He's done Rocket Girl and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Awesome. I remember, and I'll be honest, this was one of the other reasons why I wanted to do this episode, because after Brandon left Alternate Realities and he was, an assistant editor full time, he would still come around the comic shop from time to time. And I remember him coming around during the time of All-Star Batman and Robin, and we all dumped on it all the time.
All right.
For all the reasons that I think you would expect and that we'll talk about in this episode. It was not generally well received. I mean, we joked about the goddamn Batman, like we had our fun. And Brandon always maintained, I don't want to put words in his mouth, right? This is not a hard quote, but the gist of his reply was always basically like, we didn't get it, right? Like Frank Miller was doing something that that was lost on us. Like we didn't get it.
Yeah, Frank Miller was playing four-dimensional chess the whole time, and it was too clever for us.
Right. And, I never really got the sense that Brandon was saying that because he worked on it. I don't think that was knowing him, and not that we're the best friends, but I know him well enough. I don't think that was the case. I think that was, and I think at least to an extent is still his opinion, although I haven't really spoken with him about it, so I'm not positive. But, that was always kind of in my head, where part of me always wondered, like, was he right? And especially, because this came out in 2005, right? Like I was in between high school and college when this came out. I'm 33 now, so a lot has happened in the meantime, and I've kind of always wondered, like,
you child. I've got credit card debt older than you.
But I've kind of always wondered, like, was he right? And
right.
Now having reread it, I wouldn't say he was right. I wouldn't say he was totally wrong either. Again, I kind of land somewhere in between, but that was one of the other reasons I wanted to do this.
I would say Frank Miller, and he's a legend. There's no denying, what he's accomplished, what he's achieved, the mark he's made on comic books and pop culture in general. But Dunn lost his mind, man. It happens. I mean, you look at, and we have conversations at the shop all the time about creators as they age, kind of maybe, the gears start to skip a little. I mean, he got, for example, and we could do a whole episode about this one day, about Dave Sim. His wheels came right off. Like he lost his damn mind. Miller got a little wonky. John Byrne even, and again, a master of his craft. As he aged, he kind of got a little cranky, a little weird, and you see it happen. But I think Frank Miller. I mean, did you read his the Black Label Superman series he did recently with Romita Jr.?
No. And
okay, don't.
Well, so
or I can send it to you if you want.
There will be an episode of my Superman podcast, Digging for Kryptonite, where we take a look at the Superman of Frank Miller. And in that episode, I will read Superman Year One. Thus far,
that's what it was. Yeah, Year One.
I haven't, but
it is rife with ridiculousness. I mean, well, as I was reading it, I would occasionally post up a panel from the book on my Facebook page. Like I'm infamous for if there's like a mistake in the art, somebody's got two right hands or something, or word balloons pointing to the wrong character. I always post it because I'm like, hey, it's somebody's job to make this correct. Somebody's getting a paycheck to make this proper, and somebody dropped the ball. But there are so many moments in that Superman Year One where you're like, how did nobody go, excuse me, Frank, this maybe not that, like, it's a mess.
I'll keep that in mind for when I read it, but your point is well taken. But, I was thinking about this because when this came out in 2005, we had endured The Dark Knight Strikes Again. However, I still feel, and you tell me what you think, because maybe you have a crisper memory of this. I don't know. But, I feel like at the time, between, the whole idea behind the All-Star line, right? We had this new publishing initiative that I had, I laid out earlier, right? So we have the All-Star line, we have Jim Lee hot off of Hush, Batman Hush. And as much as, again, we had Dark Knight Strikes Again, which I don't think struck the right note for most fans of Dark Knight Returns. But at the same time, I still feel like for a lot of fans, it was like, oh, it's Frank Miller. It's Year One. It's Dark Knight Returns. And I think that all created an expectation on the readership as to what this book would be. And I think that was one of the hurdles to enjoying All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, because you read it, the first issue, but especially definitely the first issue, but especially in the subsequent installments, where it just really is not it's not a traditional superhero story or a traditional
Not at
Batman
all.
story. And it definitely doesn't fit into, again, Year One or Dark Knight Returns. Although, I mean, Miller has maintained that he is effectively writing the same Batman, right, across
Right.
these stories, which, do you see that anywhere? I mean, I don't know.
No. I mean, Year One is a very different Batman than you get in All-Star Batman. The one in All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, is closer to the Dark Knight Returns Batman, angry, bitter, violent, you know. But it's such a perplexing thing. It's so fascinating. It's like at the store, I love to put in bad movies because I could put in, I could put on the TV Endgame and people are like, oh man, I love this part. Or I love this or that. I'd much prefer to put on something terrible. And then people come like, what? Like, it's a more interesting conversation to dissect a bad movie. You can sit there and fawn over a good movie all day long, and we get it. It's good. I prefer somebody going, what were they thinking with that? And that's what I like about All-Star Batman and Robin, where it's just that kind of, was he intentionally doing this? Was he just kind of getting a little older and being like, I'm goddamn Frank Miller. I'll do whatever the hell I goddamn want. And nobody in editorial, Bob Schreck, was like, hey man, maybe, we make, merchandising and everything, movies, cartoons, toys out of this character. Maybe don't have him calling, Dick Grayson retarded. like maybe not, maybe dial it back. So I would love to have seen those emails, back and forth of like, hey Frank, so in this scene, you got, Black Canary like shoving a guy's wedding ring down his throat, and like all this crazy stuff. I wonder if there was any editorial, kind of notes
input. I mean, so I have no inside knowledge from Brandon at all. Like, he never talked about this.
Call him up, get him on the phone. Let's figure this out.
But the sense that I've always gotten, just knowing the nature of this line and the creators involved, I've always kind of had, and looking at the finished product, I've always kind of been of the opinion that there really was, I think pretty much what they handed in was what we saw. That was kind of always what I've gotten. I want to say three nice things about All-Star Batman and Robin, because
You've got three?
Three nice things. One is the
Ever
art.
the optimist.
One is the art. Everyone likes the art. Jim Lee.
Absolutely.
All right, so
Sure.
that that's quick. Gorgeous art. Not a criticism to be had. The other two things. One is that it's it moves. Like when I was doing my reread, I was actually, time after time, I was actually surprised when I got to the end of the issue. I was like, oh, like that actually went fast. So it's not a slog, which I'll give them that. And for anyone who hasn't read it, it wouldn't take you long to read the 10 issues. I mean, you could really bang it out in an hour or an hour and a half.
I did the 9 issues tonight in about an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely moves, and there's something to be said for that. I'll give them that. And here's the most substantive compliment that I'll give the book. I think that the heart of the idea behind this story, that Batman is past Year One, but he's early in his career and he's still figuring out how to be Batman, and he's struggling and he's cracking. I think that's a really interesting idea. And, for as outlandish as his behavior towards Dick Grayson is, there are moments where, we have Batman's internal monologue, and there are moments where he questions himself, right? He's like, what am I doing to this kid?
What am I doing to this kid? Yeah,
right?
This poor kid.
And, there is a method to the madness, because he, is constantly berating, Dick during this Batmobile ride and in the Batcave. But we know
he leaves him there to starve. He goes, well, food will present itself, like, eat a bat or eat a rat, and
exactly. But it's all to prevent, Dick from succumbing to and wallowing in and being defeated by his grief, right? And it actually leads to a really beautiful moment at the end of issue 9, which I agree with you actually works well enough to kind of conclude at least that chapter of the story, where, issue 1 ends with him grabbing Dick Grayson, because I think if you leave the Grayson off, it maybe isn't the most appropriate, right?
We're going to get flagged.
Explicit. Grabbing Dick Grayson, right, at, after rescuing him from the cops. And then leading him on this crazy adventure to the end of issue 9, where he realizes like this kid needs to have a moment of grief and closure, and he brings him to the grave, and they hug, and it's like this beautiful moment. And so I think that, and this is what I liked about it, I think the heart of that is a valid story to be told, but I think one of the problems is that got swallowed up in the larger story, which, again, had all of the trappings of a Sin City, installment. And it was Frank Miller at his most Frank Miller. I mean, corrupt cops and dirty streets and seedy bars and dames. Like, it had all of that. And so everything around Batman was so heightened that I think the effect of, hey, this guy's struggling with being Batman and reaching out to this kid, I think that got swallowed up and it got lost because everything else was so heightened.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, what you're saying, I agree with, where, there are points in the story where Batman's like, I can't let this kid grieve, because once he comes to peace with this, he'll lose his edge. He won't be ready for the fight. I can't allow him the moment to really process what's happening. I need to throw him into this crazy world so I can hone him. And then there are parts where Bruce's mask slips, where from Dick Grayson's perspective, his word balloons or whatever, you see like, he's trying to do this Clint Eastwood voice. He goes, for a second, his voice slipped into normal. And Dick Grayson recognizes that this guy's damaged. He's trying to do a thing. He's kind of halfway there, but you see the cracks in the armor, for Bruce Wayne. But yeah, the things like leaving him in the Batcave and being like, you'll find food. And then Alfred brings him a bacon cheeseburger. And then Bruce gets mad. Like, why'd you feed him? And he's like, the kid's got to eat, man. He's like a monster. Like, there's a lot of interesting stuff like that. But they have those moments where they try to humanize Batman a bit. He's definitely putting on an act. You could see, with the whole goddamn Batman. But they do have those moments where he reveals his softer side, where he's having a hard time keeping up this facade,
For sure. I'm so glad, you brought that up, because I think that is a nice moment, again, when the voice slips and Dick notes it. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, so there are some nice touches. Again, I think the effect kind of gets lost because of how bonkers the overall story is. But there's some good stuff in there. Let's take a 30-second commercial break, and then we will continue when we get back. Movie lovers should check out this family of film festivals: the Brightside Tavern Film Festival in Jersey City, the Hang On to Your Shorts Film Festival in Asbury Park, and the Point Lookout Film Festival on Long Island. Submission information for filmmakers, as well as details about the festivals generally, can be found at filmfreeway.com. Also, be sure to listen to the podcasts hosted by the festival's organizer, CJ Cullen. You can find the official Hang On to Your Shorts podcast, as well as the Cullen on Film podcast, via a shared universe network. And we're back, and we have yet another mask from Shawn. Oh, and the mask is gone.
One of many. How much? I can't see through that one.
There have been no cut. I'm not planning to edit this. So what you're hearing is exactly what we've been recording and filming. How much whiskey do you have left?
Enough. I'm good.
Okay.
This being the most wonderful time of the year. Most of my customers are gifting me with either candy or alcohol. So it's, death by 1,000 cuts. It's going to be either diabetes or cirrhosis. We'll see what happens first. I
know you said that you literally just finished your reread. Were you partaking during your reading, or did you pour it for the recording?
I'll never tell.
I'll take
I wasn't actually.
No?
I ate some vegan mac and cheese.
Okay. Because I when I did my reread like a week or so ago, I did pour myself nothing crazy, because I had to keep my wits about me. I knew we were going to be talking about this. But again, I enjoyed my reread. I think I was able to, enjoy it enough that I felt it was worthwhile, and I'm glad we're doing this episode. Like, for whatever that's worth to you or to listeners.
No, it's all about the approach. If you approach it like, all right, this is ridiculous. It's like when people watch WWE, they know it's over the top. They know it's scripted. They know, but you watch it for the spectacle. And you know what I mean? If you can enjoy it on the merits of just being this crazy ass Elseworlds B-movie, goddamn Batman, you can enjoy it. There are those moments, those weird chauvinistic moments and stuff where like, ooh, okay, you know, in this day and age, maybe that would be a little like, you know, but if you're ready for the ride, if you know what you're getting into, it's enjoyable. If you're like, here's Frank Miller being as Frank Miller could ever Miller. Like that's, you know.
Yeah, no, but that's it exactly. And I think like that's not what I was expecting, and that's not what I was looking for when I read. Like I remember when this came out, I remember being excited for it. I remember, again, I love the idea of the All-Star line. I was into Hush, and I was excited that Jim Lee was going to be doing the art for this. Like, again, like I was there for it. And I remember,
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Hush is overrated.
I know.
Sorry, Justin. I know if Justin hears this, he'll be upset with me.
That's the subject of another book club episode, actually. But you know, so I was there for it, and you know, again, I was disappointed by what we got at the time. But you're 100% right, and again, that's why I wanted to do this, because it's like, yeah, if you go in with the understanding that this is Batman by way of Sin City, you know, and you could kind of buy into that. I'm gonna make a comparison here, and you'll roll your eyes for a second, but just bear with me. It reminds me in one very specific respect to Zack Snyder's films, his DC films, because I genuinely believe, and Ken Marion and I did a massive epic
I can't wait to hear it.
Discussion of this on
I haven't
digging for
gotten a chance
kryptonite
yet, but I promise you I'm going to listen to this.
I appreciate that. So we did this huge digging for kryptonite episode about the films of Zack Snyder, and one thing that I said multiple times throughout the episode was that I don't want this to get off track, but
go for it.
But I feel,
when don't we get off track? This is kind of what we do.
That's true. But I really feel like, you know, if you buy into, same idea, right? If you buy into the idea that this is setting Superman in quote unquote the real world in modern times, I feel like the choices that Snyder made were the appropriate choices for that story in that setting, and that world that he was creating. And so that's the specific comparison that I see here, where it's like, yeah, if you can approach the story like exactly like you said, right? Like this is Frank Miller at his most Frank Miller, all the trappings of the Sin City stories, like, you know, and again, at the time, like it's tough to sort of reconcile that and accept that. But now knowing what it is, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool that there's basically a Sin City version of Batman that exists, you know. And at the time,
you nailed it. It is basically Sin City Batman, you know,
yeah.
Except it has color.
Yeah, exactly.
even down to the cop cars and stuff looking kind of retro, you know. I noticed that doing the reread tonight that a lot of the cars and the vehicles and things they look, you know, vintage. It's not a modern, you know, the Batmobile's modern. Oh, sorry, the goddamn Batmobile is modern. But yeah, all the cop cars and stuff, even the police uniforms, everything looks kind of like a throwback, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I think that definitely helps in one's enjoyment if you can kind of buy into that. There's still more for us to unpack, and I want to make sure we get to all of your notes, but what did you think about his take on the other DC heroes? Because there's one bit in particular that, man, it made me laugh, and I really appreciated it more now than I did before.
Does he hate these characters? Superman's this aggro asshat. Wonder Woman is this angry pseudo lesbian, apparently. Green Lantern, Bruce's inner monologue is like, this guy's so dumb. If I had that power, you know what I would do? This guy's so dumb. Plastic Man, you don't get much of Plastic Man, and he kind of behaves like you would expect Plastic Man to behave. But my God, is his take on those characters just mean-spirited? You know, people always say that Garth Ennis, when he was writing Punisher and stuff, and he brought in Wolverine and Spider-Man and Daredevil, Garth Ennis hates superheroes, and that's why he wrote The Boys, because he hates the concept of superheroes. But this book, holy crap. I mean, it's one thing in The Dark Knight Returns, Superman becomes kind of a shill for the government and whatnot, you know. But he still does the right thing in the end. He realizes Bruce is still alive. Spoilers for a book from 1986. And he kind of like lets it go. He's like, all right, you know, he's not really dead. I'm going to walk away. But in this book, holy crap, they're a bunch of jerks.
You're not wrong, but I don't know. I mean, and I guess it's debatable. Maybe we have our answer, but it's like, does Batman's view of these characters match Miller's? I guess that's the question, right?
Well, the thing is, the scene with Wonder Woman meeting up with Superman, Plastic Man, and Green Lantern, that's not shown through Bruce's perspective.
That's a great point. Yeah.
They're meeting up out. So if that was shown, like, and he was watching them, I could see it like that's his idea of these people, of how they act. But that scene has nothing to do with him. He's nowhere near there. So the portrayal of those characters is entirely Frank Miller's choice. Like, this is how these people act. And it was unpleasant.
Yeah, so you found it like you were kind of put off by his take on the proto Justice League.
Yeah, very much so.
Fair enough. It's funny. Like again, as you know, and any longtime listeners know, Superman's my favorite character. That being said, it did make me laugh the bit where Vicky Vale is in the hospital and she needs the help of this specialist doctor, and Batman has Alfred call the Daily Planet, has him call Clark, basically to let him know, like, I know who you are. And this panel of Superman carrying the car as he's running across the ocean. I don't know, it made me laugh.
Yeah, because in this book, Superman doesn't know yet that he can actually fly. Batman knows Superman can fly and makes some comment like that idiot doesn't even know he's capable of flight, Yeah. That was a bit ridiculous.
It was. But again, like, despite being the massive Superman fan that I am, like, I was still able to kind of find the humor in that. And his view of Green Lantern, similarly, it did make me laugh. This whole idea. We had a little technical glitch, but you're with us, yeah?
Yeah, we had to drop out.
No, you're fine.
I'm here.
We're all good. I was just going on and on, so it's fine. So
it's happened again.
We have another little freeze here.
No.
Please bear with us, folks.
Sorry, guys. I live in Butler. The internet's terrible.
It's quite all right. Listen, I hope that everyone appreciates. Certainly, we appreciate you listening, and/or watching, and. I hope everyone takes into account that we're, in the era of the pandemic and remote recording and dealing with Wi-Fi, and we're doing our best. But can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So we've made it. Right. It's 42 minutes in, and this is the first glitch during the recording that we've had. So I think that's pretty. I'll take that as a win. I'll take that as a win. So
I will celebrate that with a sip of a Guinness.
Go for it. I was going to say that. Batman's view of Green Lantern did make me laugh. This whole idea of, like, this guy is like dumb as a potato. I think he says at some point.
Yeah, that's actually a quote. Yeah,
he's like, he could create anything, and he's creating, like, flashlights and baseball bats or whatever,
egg beaters.
Yeah.
And,
and I mean, it leads again. I know I used the word bonkers before, but, like, it's this bonkers sequence where Batman and Robin paint everything, including themselves, yellow. In order to neutralize Green Lantern. And it's like, it is absurd, but there's something very funny about it. And I don't know, I guess I just, like, I'm glad that exists.
Well, going back to earlier, I said the two main takeaways were the goddamn Batman, what are you, dense? Are you retarded? And then Batman and Black Canary. The third, if there is a third, is that sequence where they paint everything, including themselves, yellow, and then offer him lemonade just to really go one step over. Like, would you like some lemonade? And then, of course, Robin throat punches him, and they got to do a tracheotomy, and it goes very Frank Miller. But yeah, the idea of, like, all right, and Batman's inner monologue is something like, there's his one weakness is yellow. What the hell kind of cosmic beings would make this all powerful weapon, and then make it maybe that's his hang up. I don't know, but yeah. The scene of them just all in yellow is so stupid that I love it.
Yeah, there's something amazing about that. And, the fact that Robin goes too far, that does lead to that moment, I believe, if memory serves, where he realizes, like, okay, like, I've done wrong by this kid. Like, he needs to have this moment where he
needs to go
parents.
grieve. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I keep saying, I think there's the germ of the idea is an interesting one, and one that I don't know that we've really seen fully explored. Like I said, I think it just kind of gets lost. But what else was on your list of notes? What other stuff stood out to you?
Well, real quick, with the Green Lantern scene with the yellow room and everything, there's a moment where Robin steals the ring off of Hal's hand.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But then years later, I think it was Jeff Johns did that in Justice League #1. I think it was the New 52 or whatever, where Batman steals the ring.
Oh, okay.
Where him and Hal meet up in a sewer or something. And, Hal's like, you don't even have powers. And he's like, yeah, well, where's your ring? And it turns out Batman swiped his ring. I think that was probably lifted whole cloth from All-Star where Robin did that, because he's like, he's just a kid. What are you doing? It's crazy. He goes, yeah, where's your ring, tough guy? And he looks at Robin's got it like, I stole your ring.
Yeah.
My other notes, it was basically page 3 is Vicky Vale in her bra and panties and stilettos while she's in her own apartment alone. Like, because, that's everybody does that.
I'm having a date with Bruce Wayne over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and she tries on multiple slutty outfits and stuff. Yeah. It's such a misogynistic book. They're at the circus and he's watching the Flying Graysons and his inner monologue says, this brat is something. Brat? Why are you calling this kid a brat? Like what has he done? You don't even know the guy. And you're calling him a brat. Like his go-to is, oh, look at his brat. It's
I know.
Not this kid, this youth, it's immediately this brat has really got skills. Like, all right, judgmental jerk.
Well, while you're on that scene, can I say 2 things real quick? One is I like the idea because we find out later that, Bruce was looking to draft someone into his war and he had, Dick Grayson in mind. Of course, he wasn't planning to draft him until much later. And then the murder of his parents, accelerated the timeline. But the idea that he was looking to expand his army is kind of interesting. So I did like that. The other thing intentionally or unintentionally humorous, I don't know if you were going to say this, but where he says to Vicky Vale, he's like, I've had my eye on this kid for a while.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? She's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I have an eye for talent. It's like, I mean, this eccentric billionaire is like,
that'll get you on To Catch a Predator pretty quickly.
Yeah, that definitely stood out.
And Dick is what? Dick Grayson is 12 in this.
They make a point of that numerous times. Like just like I'm having a date with Bruce Wayne, like where Vicky Vale like repeats that to herself. Same thing, like Dick Grayson, age 12, like that. Gets a lot
so
of
he's
play.
12. So Bruce says, "I've had my eye on this kid for a while." How long have you been? And how is he been on your radar? And what were your plans? Let's say his parents didn't get murdered. You're going to swoop in, wait till he turns 18, and then show up and be like, come with me, kid. Like, what? I don't understand. what was the end game there? Like, what was...
That's a good question, actually. Like, what was the plan there?
Yeah, if the events didn't get accelerated by their murder, the Flying Graysons, or the Dying Graysons, I guess is more appropriate. But what I know. Look, allow me that.
All right.
It's been a long year, my friend.
I know. That's true. That's true.
But what was his plan? And if anybody, why that kid? And when were you planning on swooping in and being like, hey man, want to meet the goddamn Batman? Like, I don't get it.
Can I say, I'm sorry, but while we're on this scene, because there was actually a lot in that sequence that jumped out at me. This is the last thing, I promise. But it was that when the Graysons are murdered, like there's no hesitation from Bruce. Like he instantly is like, he doesn't know how to process this. Like I gotta move. And I thought that was interesting. And again, obviously from Bruce's own experience, like he knows 100% what Dick is going through. So I did like that as well.
Well, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
You're much smarter than me. Maybe you can answer this. It's revealed that the guy hired to kill the Graysons was hired by the Joker.
Yeah.
Who also in a very misogynistic scene murders the chick in the hotel room. That was uncomfortable. And then has the Nazi lady with the Nazi boobs clean it up. Like, creepy. But why did the Joker hire Jocko Boy? I forget the guy's name, something like that. Why was he hired to kill the Graysons? I didn't, like you said, I didn't read that final, quote unquote, final issue. Was that any part of it?
It was not resolved, and I know we're jumping ahead to the end, but that's the end. Right. I mean, it's, it's like, no. So,
what? You and I should team up. I draw a little. I mean, I'm not very good. We could make the definitive ending to All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder. We'll just pick it up where it left off. We'll come to a conclusion.
That'd be great, actually. Yeah, All-Star Batman and
Robin.
Robin.
Can we afford Tom Rainey? I'm friends with him. We can have Tom Rainey draw.
You are close personal friends with comic book artist Tom Rainey. All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, the goddamn finale. I think
the goddamn finale. See, it sells itself.
Yeah, I mean, we might get hit with a lawsuit from AT&T, but
I got a lawyer. I know a guy. Oh, wait a minute. I know you.
that's true. So yeah, well, but what was I going to say? I lost
Fiction
it.
can't be sued, can it? It's fanfic.
Oh, this is what I was going to say. So with the
Okay.
no, the final
Sorry for the
issue,
detour.
the final issue does not resolve this. So the issue that introduces the Joker, I think it's that issue. He approaches Catwoman to team up. Is that the same issue, right? So in issue 10, the would-be finale, what ended up being the finale, Batman finds Wonder Woman like in really bad shape, like in the remains of like one of his old bat caves. But we don't know anything about what happened. And so I assume that was part of the story to be told. So anyway, to answer your question, it's like, no, like we never find out why
the Joker hired a trigger man to kill the Waynes.
Right. And apparently he also
to kill the Graysons. I'm sorry.
To kill the Graysons. And I mean, apparently he also had all these cops in his pocket as well, right? Because I mean, that's the whole thing, right? The Graysons get shot dead, which that too, I don't know if that's on your notes, but typically, right, yeah, there you go, right?
Right there.
So yeah, the change to how they die, what did you think about that?
The change to what?
To how the Graysons are murdered.
It paints most of the Gotham cops as dirty, as on the take. They take Robin to the Gulch or whatever it's called to ostensibly kill him. One of them slaps Vicky Vale for being too nosy, which again, in this day and age does not, it didn't age well. And then, maybe you can answer this because I read through it twice just to see if I missed something. Alfred and Vicky are in the limo. She's driving. They're chasing the cops who have Dick Grayson. The goddamn Batmobile slices through a cop car. I would imagine.
You've frozen. I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze there for a second. Please bear with us, folks.
Oh, you there? I'm sorry, man.
No, you don't have to apologize.
Okay. All right. So Vicky's driving the limo. Alfred's passenger. They go to chase the cops who have taken Dick Grayson to murder him in the woods. The Batmobile slices through the cop car, probably killing the couple officers in there. But then it cuts to Vicky being wounded, her collarbone's broken, and this and that, and Alfred's tending her wounds. They didn't show the limo crashing.
No.
So what happened off panel where all of a sudden Vicky's in the hospital? And that's when, Bruce is like, go call Clark Kent and we'll get the doctor here. But they didn't show any of that. Like, it seems like sloppy storytelling. Like, there was no scene of that limo crashing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I had the same thought, and I went back to the first issue as well. And I'm like, did I miss something? And so the fact that you had the same takeaway, no, I mean, I think it was just like they had a car accident off panel. Yeah. What call? I mean, yeah, I don't know. That was a very odd choice, but I had the same thought process you did. And I went back and I was like, did I miss something? But apparently not.
Because the scene where the Batmobile crashes through a cop car, I was like, oh, was that the limo? Did he just crash through his own limo? And it wasn't. It was the cop car. So right. I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again, that's the thing where editorial, if they were doing their job, would have been like, Frank, are we missing a page? Is there something that, what?
Yeah, Brandon, what the hell?
Brandon, come on, man, get it together.
I just think we didn't.
He had one job, just the one.
We just didn't get it. You don't get it. This is the thing, Shawn.
5-dimensional chess. That's what it is.
You just don't understand how car accidents happen, without any explanation. I don't. Brandon might actually listen or watch, and if he does, hello.
We're just busting your balls, pal.
Yeah,
we like you.
It's all in good fun. And actually, Brandon, if you have an explanation, I would be happy to hear it. Honestly. What's amazing, I don't know, Shawn probably can't hear me right now, but obviously listeners can. And Shawn is frozen mid-sip of his whiskey, which I feel like okay, he's back. Shawn, I was saying that you froze mid-sip. And I was about to say that if there were any image that encapsulated you, I feel like that's it.
How dare you, sir?
we made it so like we're almost an hour in. We've made it so far with just these last couple of technical glitches. I don't feel like we should push our luck too much longer.
Okay, can I throw a couple of more points though?
Keep going.
Okay, so Black Canary. We need to talk about Black Canary.
Yeah, we do have to talk about Black Canary.
There's an issue there. There's all right. She's working at a bar called Black Canary. Two patrons walk in discussing on the way, you got to see this chick. She's so hot. She's the new Black Canary. She's behind the bar in a mask and fishnets, and her booty's popping and all that. And all the guys are trying to get handsy and call her sweet cakes or whatever and everything. And the captions, I guess they're told from Bruce's point of view, even though he's not there. And
we lost Shawn again. Let's see. I'm sure he'll be back ever so shortly.
Am I back?
You're back.
I'm back.
You're back.
Back.
Yeah. Boy,
wait,
man,
now you're frozen.
Oh,
God damn it.
Terrific. Now I'm frozen to Shawn, but of course, listeners and viewers, you can see and hear me. Thank you for bearing with us. We are nearing the end of this episode here, and I hope that the technical glitches haven't been too burdensome and haven't taken you out of the conversation too much. I was apologizing. I was apologizing to our audience.
It just happened again. Damn it.
Well, I think we might be, we are kind of, we're just under an hour here. So I think we are coming close to the end of our episode here. I don't know. In the future, we might have to do these from Fat Moose, where it seems like the Wi-Fi might be a little, because we did at least one from there. We did at least one podcast from Fat Moose. I think the Wi-Fi is a little more reliable there. We might have to do that for future installments.
Yeah, I agree. Although I can't drink there because I have to drive home. Will you pay for my Uber?
Yeah, you know what? Fine. Listen, if enough people sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. If enough people do the Patreon, we can spring for an Uber for Shawn so that he can have his whiskey, and we can do these podcast episodes. So you were talking about Black Canary, right? And the sequence in the bar where it's very chaotic. I think between the art and the script, they do a good job of conveying like the chaos of the scene, right? Where she's constantly being hit on, and she finally snaps and just beats the crap out of everybody, including, like you said, those two guys. One of whom is, visually at least, Oliver Queen, not by name, but
one of whom in the panel where they're entering the bar refers to the other character as Dorothy. I don't know if that's a slur, like you're a woman, or is the guy's name Dorothy? I'm not, because it's not in quotes. And I'm like, okay, Dorothy. Like, I don't know what was going on there.
I don't know. But yeah, she's this. So like, yeah, this Black Canary is this bartendress, this Irish lass who just finally has enough with all of these men and is inspired by Batman, right? So we see this with both Black Canary and Batgirl, right? Like two characters.
Right. Oh, yeah, Batgirl.
And both female characters, like both young women in Gotham who are inspired by Batman and put on costumes and go fight crime.
But I think the costume for Black Canary was part of the job because the bar is called the Black Canary. Like, I don't know, because the guy says, oh, you got to see the new Black Canary. Apparently, maybe that's like a Hooters where you got to wear a certain costume, But the one of the captions, and again, I think it's Bruce giving his take on Black Canary, which is weird because he's not there. He says, maybe she's had enough, maybe she can't take it anymore. Maybe it's the wrong time of the month. I had that moment like, oh, Frank, come on, man. Like trying to play it into, she's menstrual, like, and that's why she's going to lose her temper. Like, just felt so anachronistic. Like, just like, dude, no, it's not a thing. Like, stop it.
It's a good point, and it's like, as much as that was 15 years ago, I feel like even then, that was, the wrong note to strike and was just inappropriate on multiple levels.
Well, and another thing, they use the word queer, detrimentally many times through the series, and like, wow, like, all right, it was 15 years ago, whatever, but like, was that okay then? To be like, oh, that's so queer. Oh, you call it the Batmobile? That's so queer. It's like, okay, all right, Frank. Yeah.
I know again, and no arguments here. Like there's plenty in this story that is problematic, certainly by today's standards, and I think even probably within the time that it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I feel like even that time, there was plenty of commentary about that. I mean, that's it's interesting because, I mentioned the Zack Snyder movies before. Even though there are many detractors, there are diehard fans as well. In the little bit of research that I did on All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, like it's not really mixed. I feel like the vast majority of like critical and fan commentary on this is negative. I mean, like, do you know of anyone like who's come through the shop or something, or anyone you happen who's like, oh, it's amazing?
No, the only people who like it ironically. You know what I mean? Like, this is so ridiculous that I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But speaking of Zack Snyder, there's going to be a day. I guarantee it, man. You're a go-getter. There's going to be a day where you interview with Zack Snyder for your podcast. I'm telling you, man. You're so pro-Zack, Pro-Zack. Oh, shit. But you're such a fan that I think there's going to come a time as you build your empire, there will be a day where the flat squirrel meets up with Zack Snyder.
I would love that. That would be great.
I'm going to work on that for you. Because, knowing all of my huge connections in the industry. Listen,
you start with Tom Rainey and off. Does Tom Rainey listen when you do these podcasts?
I don't know. He was in a couple weeks ago because I ordered the IDW artist edition of Michael Golden's Micronauts. He's a huge Michael Golden fan. He came in. I made him sign a bunch of books for me and stuff. But maybe Tom is my in. I can just like, hey. Me and Tom are tight. How do I get to meet Zack Snyder and bring him over to Anthony?
Yeah,
I'll do what I can. Look, I got a lot of stuff going on, but on your behalf, I
appreciate it. So anyway, like with Black Canary, like, yeah, it's definitely a different take on Black Canary. And yes, it leads to this doc.
She's an angry, horny Irish lass. Yeah. Where there's a moment where Batman hears her accent. So it sounds like she's from blah, blah, blah. Like a specific part of Ireland. I'm like, okay, the Batman's the world's greatest detective. He probably could make out her accent.
Yeah.
But later on, there's a scene where Robin hears Alfred. He hears Alfred's voice and then picks out, oh, he sounds like he's from Kensington or, like a little province of England. It's like, how does this 12-year-old kid, how could he place it? Like, you could hear the accent, be like, all right, he sounds British. How do you go, he sounds like he's from this exact part of Britain? Like, no, I'm sorry. Dick Grayson's a talented kid. But no, well, he can't.
Listen, Dick Grayson, age 12, he's traveled the world with the circus. I kind of chalk that up to
come on, man, seriously.
It's a
Frank Miller, ladies and gentlemen, Frank Miller.
Yeah. Oh,
God bless him.
And we could circle back to Black Canary, but one other thing that I want to make sure we mention, because again, I think this was an interesting idea. Like I said, this is definitely a more unhinged Batman. Like he seems to be being crushed by the weight of his crusade. But we also see him delighting in the violence that he inflicts on criminals in a way that I don't know that you see in other stories. I mean, there's that sequence in particular. I think it's like shortly before he encounters Black Canary, where where he saves a woman from a group of would-be rapists. And I mean, he really relishes in the pain and the damage that he inflicts on them.
Yeah, he chooses to laugh on his way down into the alley, and he says something like, "Oh, I put on the laugh; it always scares them." And he breaks the guy's arm, says something about you're never going to feel your hand properly again, and then he beats the hell out of a couple guys. Then the chick he rescues kicks the guy and he congratulates her like, yeah, good job. And, he goes, do me a favor. Don't call an ambulance. Let them deal with it. And yeah, he's very, he's a sadist, man. He's just,
yeah.
Now it's different. In The Dark Knight Returns, 1986, you were but a babby then, right? What year were you?
I was not even born.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I feel really old. But he has that inner monologue where he's like, I know X amount of ways to take this guy down. A few of them hurt. This one. he's vicious, but he doesn't revel in it. He just understands, I need to do this. This is like, I need to hurt these people to take them. But yeah, in the All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, he relishes it.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't go for the easy takedown. He wants to leave everybody crippled forever, That, like the guy who kills the Graysons, first thing he does, he hits him with a batarang that has snake poison on it.
Yeah, right.
Which then causes him to have hallucinations for the rest of his
forever.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how snake poison works. You if anything, you and I being experts in snake poison, that's how that works.
Yeah, snake poison and the origin of accents. We know exactly where everyone's from.
Yeah. I can tell you exactly where you're from and what kind of snake poison will do what to you.
Exactly. And what kind of whiskey you like. That's the
very
trifecta.
specific skill sets.
Yeah. No, I know. Like it's again, like it's not. I don't know that there's any other Batman story, or any other take on Batman that's in line with this. And this is probably being too generous, but I'll offer this. We don't know where this story was going. And I think that's one of the frustrations with reading it and also with having this discussion. Like we're limited by the fact that, we have 9 in your case and in my case, 10 issues. Right. And, it's
not all of us can afford the absolute editions of everything.
I don't have, listen, I would not buy the absolute edition of this.
No,
I read it digitally.
I got to cancel my Amazon order for you.
Yeah.
It's heading your way.
But, we don't know where the story was going. I mean, just a quick refresher. After it stalled out at issue 10, and then the All-Star line itself never went forward. It was this and Superman, and that was it. I think it was like 2010 or so. It was announced that Miller and Lee were going to do a 6-issue miniseries called Dark Knight Boy Wonder, which was going to resolve this storyline. So,
I don't remember that at all.
Oh, I remember. Because again, like, even though I was really not a fan as this was coming out, it's like I was kind of curious. And just from a publishing point of view, it was so odd to me that, like, it would just go unfinished. And so they announced that they were doing the 6-issue conclusion, and that never materialized. So there were at least 6 more issues intended to wrap up the story. And it's like, if I'm being generous, like, yeah, maybe this was all going to pay off. And by the end of the story, we were going to get back to a more recognizable version of Batman. That might be too generous, but I just want to
at least, ever the optimist.
I just put it out there because I don't know, maybe it's at least a possibility.
But now the original series was supposed to be 12 issues, right?
That's the thing. I don't know. I think, right? Because like that's what Superman was.
That's what Superman was. Yeah. So if they crapped out at 10, then it was going to take them another 6 to finish.
I mean, I really don't know. I mean, they had, they certainly had the business, right? Like you said, of what the Joker's motivation was in taking out the Graysons, right?
Right.
And then, we had, Black Canary introduced, we had Batgirl introduced, Jim Gordon kind of came into play later on in issue 10, which I know you didn't have, but like he had a larger role in that issue where his wife gets into an accident. She's like driving drunk and he's at the hospital and he's calling Sarah Essen. And that's the last page is him on the phone with Sarah as his wife is in the hospital.
I may own issue 10.
You probably do.
I probably read it years ago and it's in storage in my sister's basement in Branchburg. But yeah, the trade that I ordered only goes up to 9, which honestly is probably a better conclusion.
Yeah. It is. Because it ends.
That's probably why they did it, just to be like, hey, close enough. We tried.
To be honest, I think that happened because I'd have to double check this. I think the trade came out, I think before issue 10, these issues were so delayed that I think the intention was like, okay, issue 10 will be the start of All-Star Batman and Robin Volume 2, trade paperback. And that just never happened. But yeah, like we said, and it's actually a nice full circle moment. Again, going from that moment where he grabs Dick Grayson to the moment at the grave, even though you don't get the resolution as to like why his parents were murdered, what the Joker's involvement and motivation were. You don't get any of that, but the sort of the emotional resolution of like, okay, I need to work with this kid a little bit.
Like the story is more Robin's journey than Batman's.
Right. Yeah.
Batman doesn't change at all. Robin, he gets scooped up as a traumatized kid and then exposed to this crazy world and then dives headfirst in, where the point he almost kills Green Lantern and then realizes, oh, that's probably not a good thing, and then gets to grieve. It's not a great book like to this day, but I'm trying to give it some sort of positive spin, you know.
You know what? It might not deserve it, to be honest. And I don't. It's not like, you know. I don't want to paint this as like, oh, I have such an agenda, you know, with this book. It was really just, I was always curious between, you know, Brandon's claims, you know, and just, you know, with some time and distance, I was just kind of always curious. Like, I don't know, is there something worthwhile about this? And again, I'll say one final time. Like, again, I think there were some really interesting ideas. I don't know how well they were necessarily executed. And I do think a lot got lost in the story as a whole being as over the top as it was. I think, you know, if the rest of the story had been a little bit more ground, I think there's, you know, this could have been stronger and maybe been remembered better by people, but it just was not to be.
It's certainly remembered by people.
That's true. Not remembered well, but remember
more of a cautionary tale than
you know, the scene between Batman and Black Canary where they have their moment on the docks.
It's called coitus. Yeah.
Did that not remind you of the scene from the Batman Killing Joke animated movie with Batman and Batgirl? It was very I mean, and obviously this came first, very reminiscent of that.
Don't get me started on that nonsense.
I know.
What a dumb idea.
I know.
Yeah, but yeah, the Batman Black Canary, like, honestly, that's one of the things that bothers me the least about the book is two consenting adults.
Yeah.
Who, you know, are wearing costumes and have sex on a dock in the rain. Oh, okay, cool. You know, there's no misogyny, there's no violence, there's no goddamn Batman moments, or, you know, but it still rings falsely character-wise, but it's possibly, again, it's one of the things people always bring up, but it's one of the on the list of issues I have with these books. It's further down the list. It's like, hey, it's just two freaks getting their freak on, whatever. Let them do it. You know,
it's true.
Bat condom, hopefully. You know,
you
know, he's got to have a couple condoms in that utility belt. I mean, just speaking as adults,
you would think
if he's got a contingency for everything,
it's true.
He's probably carrying some condoms.
I think that's fair. I feel like even if
sorry, man.
I'll go with it.
Year.
I feel like even if he doesn't, I feel like Alfred would throw a couple in there. Don't you think?
Yeah, right.
I feel like Alfred would be like, Master Bruce.
Like, here's a cucumber sandwich and some condoms, just to get you through the night.
Hey, not to change the subject, but on the note of Alfred, there's actually, so, you know, we do get internal monologues, like, from a bunch of characters, Batman and Dick and Vicky Vale and Batgirl and Black Canary, like, and Jim Gordon and Alfred briefly, but it is an interesting sequence where Alfred, I think he's like hitting a punching bag, right? Am I remembering this?
Right.
Right.
Shirtless, sexy Alfred.
Yeah, Alfred's, and there's that moment
he's very toned
where he's holding going back to earlier in the series after the car accident that we didn't see, when he's holding Vicky Vale. I mean, he's like a movie star.
Yeah,
sure.
Alfred's pretty hot.
Yeah. But what was I going to say?
Hence all the condoms. I mean, Alfred carries them. He puts them in Bruce's belt. I mean, they're sexy guys. You know, you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself.
Yeah, well, apparently down at the docks fighting crime. But there's that interesting moment with Alfred where he's hitting the punching bag and he's reflecting on Bruce and Bruce as a kid, and this idea like Bruce was always like, you know, always kind of had this fire within him, and it leads to this moment where Alfred speculates that it wasn't until like Martha's last moment, like her last breath, where she looked over at Bruce and like saw Bruce's true nature.
I'm sorry, who looked at Bruce?
The second I said Martha, I knew where this was going.
What?
Yeah.
Why'd you say that?
Yeah.
Why'd you say that name?
That's his mother.
Why'd you?
Sorry, man.
It's all right.
Some things are too easy.
I walked right into that. I admit it. But
I know what you're talking about. He says that Martha's like dying breath, she saw Bruce turn into a monster or whatever, or turn into dark.
A demon,
like,
I think.
The last thing she saw last thing Martha saw on Earth was her son become this vengeance demon or whatever. I forget the actual wording of it, but that was unnecessary to see, like, you know, as Martha dies, she watches her son become like this grim, I don't know, whatever. And then there's a line from Bruce, like something like, I touched my mother's breast. Awkward enough. And then the next line is like, you know, and there was blood and I realized she wasn't breathing and there was no heartbeat. But there's just literally a caption that says, I touched my mother's breast. Like, okay, you could do better than like that caption. If I was to take just one picture of that caption and put it on Facebook, we'd be like, what the hell book are you reading?
Yeah. And, you know, your point about, being put off about that notion that was Martha's last thought, right? Like, I get what you're saying. And I suppose, you know, if you asked me to assemble my like all-time definitive Batman origin, would that be part of it? No, probably not. But again, like, I think it's an interesting idea, you know, and, you know, reading the book now, like, just kind of knowing what it is and accepting that it really is just kind of like this weird footnote of a Batman story, really, right? This unresolved part of a now defunct, you know, publishing line. Like, it didn't really go anywhere. So, but I don't know, like, again, I thought that was an interesting idea. But yeah, I mean, is that, you know, do I like the idea that that's this poor woman's last thought on Earth? You know, no, not necessarily.
Yeah, as my son has just become a monster. Like, yeah.
But again, it was an interesting idea. And
like Martha's last vision on Earth was watching her little boy become this grim specter of vengeance. And like, yeah, okay, all right.
Although
it's very Zack Snyder-y.
But, you know, I don't, and maybe I misread this, but I guess I kind of, Alfred's whole monologue about that, I kind of took it, not to say that Bruce was always a demon, but that Alfred talks about like Bruce was always like running off and getting into stuff, and Martha was like always
a daredevil.
So I kind of took it more as like not so much that like, oh, in her last breath she sees him become this monster, but it's like in that one moment she at least got to see like who he truly is. I don't know if that's, you know, enough of a difference, if that makes it any more palatable, but that was kind of my reading of it, at least.
Yeah, that's a reach, in my opinion.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
He's the goddamn Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. What else is on your list?
Yeah. Though? God, what a fascinating study, though, into the mind of Frank Miller is this thing. Like,
I know.
It's really so, like, you could hand this to a psychologist and be like, all right, I can figure this guy out by reading this thing, you know, and immediately prescribe heavy medication. I don't have much left on the list. I put the, I crapped out. I put a lot of notes in early on and then just realized I was pressed for time. Yeah, we covered that. Oh, there's a line in there early on, maybe issue 2 or 3, where they're still in a Batmobile because they're in the goddamn Batmobile for several issues. Batman makes some reference like, you want to get nutty, we'll get nutty, you know, and then he turns it into a jet and then he turns into a sub. But I was wondering if that was like a reference to the 89 Batman, like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, you know?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I felt like maybe that was Miller just giving a little nod to the Keaton Batman, you know?
I could see that.
Goddamn Keaton.
Yeah, right?
Aside from that, yeah, I was under the gun. I was like, damn, I got to finish this book quick. So I crapped out on the notes pretty early on. But I appreciate you inviting me to do this because it was so fascinating. I haven't read this book since it was coming out on a monthly basis, which, you know, it obviously was not. So it's been a long time. But what, good or bad, it's going to stand the test of time as this interesting footnote to comic book history of like, what happens when you give an aging crazy man carte blanche to do whatever the hell he wants and then get one of the top artists to make it beautiful. It's like a lot of weird, cringy moments, beautifully illustrated. But yeah, it is. I think I need to order a couple for the store. Just it's something kind of thing. We're like, oh, you want to read something nuts? You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Here, buy this. So.
No, I mean, I get what I was actually going to ask if you were going to hang on to the trade that you ordered for this reread, or if you were going to bring it to the store.
Well, I read it and I kind of bent the spine back a little.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't like selling, repurposed books mostly, except for yours.
Thanks.
Which, by the way, I gotta send you a check at some point. But that one I may just keep and just order one or two. Now, I mean, everything's screwed up with DC. Switching from Diamond to UCS now to Lunar, and so if I can get more, I may get a couple for the shop because it's one of those things that it's so silly that it's become a part of history. It behooves me to have a few copies at the store,
Yeah, I actually think, because I know there are a bunch of Fat Moose folks who follow the stuff that I do, which I very much appreciate, and I know you have very loyal customers. I'm sure people will listen and watch this because you're on it. I have a feeling maybe you'll move a couple of copies because of this podcast. That would be cool.
Hope so.
I hope so. I feel bad if you would. Yeah. I feel bad if you order some.
I ordered a case. Got 52 copies. No, I did my first Lunar order a couple weeks ago, and I got my final UCS order last week, which was very costly, and it turns out it's because they shipped 2 weeks worth of stuff in 1 week. So I think UCS is done. I'm hoping there's no hiccup in deliveries and my Lunar stuff goes there. I really need to check tomorrow morning. I should have checked today, but I was busy doing Christmas shopping and stuff and reading the goddamn Batman.
You keep dating this episode. People are going to be hearing
I don't
this
care.
in
Who cares?
2021.
You're gonna look.
I know.
It is
all right.
December 21st.
Yes.
2020. Right? Isn't it?
That is
Holy
when we are
crap.
recording this. This is all right. Look, we'll peel back the curtain here. So this is the first episode of my comic shop book club to be recorded. I haven't decided yet in what order I will release them, because I'm recording a handful of these book club episodes before any of them start in mid-January. So we'll kind of, I don't know which one is gonna go first. It may very well be this one, because I've had a lot of fun.
This one should go first, second, and third.
Oh, we should just keep playing.
This should be just every week. Be like, listen to this again. Look how great this is.
Or I mean, we've been going. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, I can break it up. We can make it a 3-parter.
Let's do a marathon. What's the longest podcast ever recorded? Let's do that.
I mean, Joe Rogan's podcasts are like over 3 hours. So
Yeah, but he's Joe Rogan.
I know. I'm no Joe Rogan, so I don't know.
There's not a dissimilar semblance there. I mean, you got a Rogan-esque thing. You work out,
I mean, I don't know. We use the same microphones.
Do you?
Yeah.
See, I'm using these little headphones. I should really, Well, if you invite me back on more podcasts, I will up my game. I promise. I
mean, honestly, it's like I would love to have you on more book club podcasts, but it's like I know how busy you are. Even this, but I figured this was 9 issues, so I figured.
How dare you?
I figured this was doable enough, but it's like, I don't want to. I know you would tell me if it's too much, but it's like I don't want to burden you with too many reading projects.
Well, remember our No Man's Land podcast where I only read like the first third.
I know, but it's okay.
Oh, look, I was able to bullshit my way through the rest of it.
It was fine, and we had Scott on for that episode.
Scott's great. Scott did his homework, man. He had notes. He had Post-its. He's a good dude.
Yeah, Scott was amazing.
I'm more of the kind of make it up as you go sort of guy. That's
But and honestly, that was one of the reasons why I invited you to do this one, because I invited you and I decided I was doing this episode, and I invited you before I did my reread, so I had no idea what my take was going to be all these years later, and I figured I was like, you know what? It's like, if nothing else, even if we end up just like bagging on this comic for an hour, it's like, it'll be fun. Like I knew it would be a good time.
We gave it the praise it deserves on those small things that deserve praise.
Yeah. Like I said, I found some things to enjoy. It was a quick read. Would I be revisiting this? Would I be, if I still had a comic shop, would I be handing this to people? No, probably not.
Are you going to give this to Milo when he's old enough?
No, I don't think this is something that I would pass on to my son. I mean,
Milo, you're 7 years old now. Read this.
Yeah, no, not so much. And I think that's unfortunate, right? Because I think that was the intention with this book. Oh, one last thing though before we go.
Yeah.
Because I came across.
Yeah, I'm out of whiskey, so
I know,
we got to wrap it up.
I know.
Okay. I'm just kidding.
I came across a Twitter thread not too long ago about All-Star Batman and Robin. And sort of the gist of it was like, hey, like it's not great, but there's some stuff to enjoy with it. Someone in the replies brought up an interesting idea, and I wanted to pose this to you. We're all in agreement, right? Jim Lee is an amazing artist, and his work in this is beautiful. No arguments there.
Absolutely.
At the same time, do you think that his selection as the artist, like, contributed to that expectation that people had that this was going to be a more like straightforward, traditional superhero story? Like, do you think maybe they should have gone with whether it was Miller himself drawing it or someone else to kind of like, I don't know, guide you sort of or to kind of just like clue you in that like, this is not the type of Batman story that you think you're getting. You
know who they should have gotten?
Who?
Tom Rainey.
Of course.
I'm beholden to say that. I love
Obviously.
Tom. No, but as far as somebody to differentiate it, because at the time Jim Lee was very much known for standard issues. Like he was the like traditional comic book guy, I don't know who they could have gotten. I mean, if Miller drew it, again, Miller, he's a legend. It probably would look like crap on toast if Miller drew it. His style's gotten very loose. Lynn Varley's colors help a lot when he draws something, but his style, I don't know who they could have gotten on the art to make it differentiate itself as like, hey, this is kind of a weird postmodern angry old man take on Batman. My go-to artist on anything aside from Tom Rainey, two of my favorite artists in the world are Adams, who again is very traditional in his style, and Bill Sienkiewicz, who is very not traditional in his style. I don't know if either of those would have worked. I think the smart play was Jim Lee. I mean, he's a superstar. He's top tier in popularity and everything. So I don't know what they could have done. I don't think DC knew what they were getting. I think those pages and those scripts came in. They were like, oh. Well, it's Frank Miller. I mean, okay, I guess we're going to do this now,
Yeah.
We got to talk to your buddy and find out what was actually going on behind the scenes. Like, were they giving Frank Miller notes like, hey, man, not for nothing.
Again, I don't know. My gut, if I had to put money on it, I would say no. But it's like, you wonder, for argument's sake, just as a thought exercise, let's say they did. Like, what was the starting point? If this is what you ended up with, it's like what the hell was in there?
Dear Mr. Miller, what the hell?
Yeah.
Dear esteemed Mr. Miller, what the hell is this? And are we expected to publish this as you wrote it?
Yeah. So in any event, I do wish that it had been finished. I doubt we'll ever see any conclusion. You never know in comics.
We're going to write it. You and I, we're doing it.
Well, how would you want the story to end? Or you want to save that for we don't want to give away our ideas.
Yeah, I got to think about that. You wait. Cause I'm so well known as being a famous comic book writer. I'll figure it out.
It's interesting, I guess. I feel like it's a kind of a tough nut to crack. The idea that the Joker was behind the murder. It's like, to what end? It's like, was he trying to create another, like, I don't know. Does he, in this version, does he know Batman's identity? Has he figured out how Batman became Batman and he's trying to create another? I mean, I don't know. It could be an interesting idea, I suppose.
Along those lines of thought, and I won't delve into it, but did you read Three Jokers?
I did, yeah. That might be the subject of an upcoming episode. Yeah. You never know.
I would love to have a podcast with you talking about that, because I got a lot of thoughts on that.
I think we can make that happen.
But that reminded me of it, where in that story, the Jokers, the three of them, were trying to create the next iteration of the Joker,
Right.
So, yeah, it was the Joker trying to create a new Batman. Like, yeah, there's so many unresolved questions. Here's what you do. Get me Frank Miller's phone number. I'll call him up. Yeah, and he and I will hash it out, and I'll let you know what he says.
All right, sounds like a plan. Listen, is there anything else you want to say before we jump?
I want to say, and I know, again, I'm dating this by putting a date on it, but it's December 21st, 2020. I just want to say happy holidays to everybody, man. I got my Christmas shopping done today, and that's it. I hope everybody's doing well, and I thank you so much, man, for inviting me. As always, I enjoy this so much.
It's my pleasure. I always have a great time when we do these. I feel like you keep giving the date because I think you feel like that will pressure me to air this sooner rather than later.
No, you can air this December 21st, 2023. I don't care. I'll be long dead by then. I'm just saying, I don't like the chicanery of like, oh, well, this is a timeless. This is the date. This is Monday the 21st. This is when we're recording. Yeah. You can edit the crap out of it if you want. I don't care, but.
No, I don't. I'm not planning to do any editing.
We don't lie to our people. Like, this is,
Yeah. No, fair enough.
And that's why I'm so jolly. It's pre-Christmas. I get the day off. I had a customer. Here's the fun part, and I'll leave you with this. I'm sorry to run off at the mouth. I had one customer who said, "How long are you going to be closed for Christmas?" I'm like, "Well, it's one day. I'll be closed for Christmas Day." He goes, "Oh, you're not going to take like a week off?" I was like, I can't afford to take a week off. I had a different customer who said, "What do you mean you're going to be closed on Christmas?" Like, what's Christmas? He goes, "Well, what if I want to escape from my wife?" I'm like, "You want me to leave a key under the mat?" Like, what? I'm sorry. I get that this is your happy place, but can I have a damn day off? I'm taking Christmas off. So yeah, just that dichotomy of, oh, you're only taking Christmas off, and the other customer going, you're taking Christmas off. It's
like, how dare you?
And Steve Odo doesn't drink. How did he get through all those years?
Yeah, the former owner of my old comic shop.
We had to bring up alternate realities, otherwise Phil can't do a shot.
I know. Yeah, one of your customers loves on my podcast whenever I mention my old store. But Steve used to, in the days before he remarried and stuff, like he would be at the shop on Christmas. And I remember there was one Christmas in particular that like before my family came over, like I went over to the store to buy an issue of Wizard that I hadn't gotten, but I was thinking about it because I had an article on like the Michael Turner Supergirl, and I remember like I didn't pick it up when it came out, and then I was like, I want to get it, and I knew he would be there, and I went, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm taking Christmas off.
As well, you should. That's for anyone who wants to check out Fat Moose. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Show up with a bunch of cash.
Okay, there you go,
probably
folks.
The best.
Yeah, Fat Moose Comics.
Find us online. We have a Facebook page. I don't have a dedicated website that. I mean, I have one. I think it hasn't been updated in God knows how many years. But call the store, show up, get in touch with me through Facebook. Go to our YouTube channel, Fat Moose Comics. There's a bunch of really stupid videos. They're increasingly more ridiculous to the point where one of my regulars goes, "My wife watched your new video with me and she's worried about you." Because she said, "Is Shawn okay? His videos keep getting weirder."
Listen, this is a weird time for everybody. We do what we can,
Exactly.
But yeah, I hope everyone will check out Fat Moose. And again, thank you so much for being part of this. I look forward to the next time we can do one. Thank you to everyone who listened or watched. I really do appreciate it. We'll be back with a new episode in 2 weeks. And until then, remember, they're all imaginary stories. My Comic Shop Book Club is a Flat Squirrel production. Art by Kristen San Gregorio, music by Basic Printer. If you like what you heard, be sure to check out my other podcasts, Digging for Kryptonite and My Comic Shop History. Sign up for exclusive content, including the official book club companion podcast, at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato, and watch my documentary film, My Comic Shop Country, out now on Apple TV and Amazon.